The NBA's draft lottery is already shaken up this summer trade market, and we've got a number of teams that are motivated to buy for big names like Kevin Durant, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and more. I'm Trevor Lane. This is the Basketball Bulletin. Let's take a look at some of the latest around the league in terms of what draft picks can be on the move and who could be buying some of the top end talent. Don't forget to subscribe right here to the channel. Turn on those notifications as well. All right, so let's take a look at this. We'll start here. This is from Jake Fisher on the Substack that he does with Mark Stein. Mentioned Houston is a team routinely mentioned as a potential Antetokounmpo suitor. We've been talking about that quite a bit, why he makes sense, Giannis does, in Houston. The Rockets came away from Monday's NBA draft lottery with the number 10 overall pick from the Phoenix Suns. Houston had number 3 a year ago and drafted Reed Shepherd with it, who they reportedly still love, but he barely was able to play for the Rockets this season. So that has led many to think that Houston's number 10 overall pick is very much at play on the trade market. Now, is that enough to get into the Giannis sweepstakes? Will a team like San Antonio, who has the number 2 pick, who are already frequently being mentioned as a Giannis landing spot, despite what they themselves may be putting out there about how they're determined to hang on to the pick and simply take Dylan Harper, could San Antonio be in the mix? Can the Rockets beat out a Spurs package for Giannis? That's going to be one of the key subplots of the summer, but they aren't the only teams that are going to be in the mix here looking to do something drastic on what I'm expecting to be a very busy summer trade market. Now, the Philadelphia 76ers also mentioned as a team that's got optionality with the number 3 pick. The 76ers can keep the pick to add to another top young player on a similar timeline with Jared McCain as well as Tyrese Maxey, or they can field offers for a veteran to add to Joel Embiid, Paul George, and Tyrese Maxey, that trio. Now, I'll tell you this. If I'm the 76ers, given the injury history of Paul George and Joel Embiid, I'm not doing anything to try to win right now for just those two guys because you have no certainty. You have no guarantee whatsoever that they will be available come playoff time, with the tricky part being just how much salary they've got committed long-term to both of those players. What looked like a great offseason last year for the 76ers very quickly flipped into being one to now they've got 2 contracts that are all but untradeable here when we look at Joel Embiid with 4 more years under contract. Oh my God. And look at that number, $70 million in the final year of that deal. That is absolutely brutal. And then Paul George as well with 3 more years under contract, player options at the end as well. 30-year-old Joel Embiid, but at this point, he might as well be 45 with his inability to stay on the floor. Heal up, Joel. He's an incredible talent, but has not been able to stay on the floor in recent years. And then you've got Paul George, of course, 34 years old. I think it's tough to justify giving up the number 3 overall pick in exchange for, say, an older player like a Kevin Durant or someone like that to try to help this Philadelphia 76ers side win right now. If I'm the Sixers, I'm building around McCain and Maxey. That's the timeline that I'm worried about. And then let Joel Embiid and Paul George help you out as much as they possibly can. But I'm not trying to cash all my chips in to win right now if I'm Philly. But that's me. Let me know if you disagree in the comments section. But these are not the only teams. Suddenly the Warriors are being mentioned among some of the big movers and shakers out there on the market, and they've even been connected to Giannis Antetokounmpo. How could they get him? And then what would the domino effect be for that? I'm going to get to that right after this. There's nothing like seeing a playoff game in person. That's why I'm thrilled to have SeatGeek as the sponsor of this video. With over 28 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app. There are over 70,000 events listed on SeatGeek, including concerts, sports, festivals, and more. Right now, you can get tickets to the MLB season and the NBA playoffs. And I love going to live events using SeatGeek. For me, it's about the value. SeatGeek has your back. Each ticket is rated on a scale of 1 to 10, so you know you're getting a good deal. So you look for the green dots. Green means good, red means bad. Plus, every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee. I love that. Takes all of the worry out of buying tickets. And you know I came through for you guys. Use our code Bulletin10 for 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. That's 10% off any tickets with promo code Bulletin10. Make sure you click the link in the description to download the app and have the code automatically added to your account so you can use it later. Again, big shout out to SeatGeek. Super thrilled to have them on as a sponsor for the Basketball Bulletin. All right, so the Golden State Warriors are certainly disappointed with their round 2 exit this year, particularly with Steph Curry going out due to injury, and that being, of course, a big factor in their loss to the Minnesota Timberwolves. I had the Wolves winning anyway, so calm down, Warriors fans. I don't think this necessarily flipped the outcome of the series, but we'll never know because Steph Curry obviously makes a massive difference. And unfortunately, we did not get the series that we thought we would. So nonetheless, the Golden State Warriors now have a bad taste in their mouth. They've got all the motivation to go try to make improvements to their roster. They already made a big trade to get Jimmy Butler at the trade deadline that paid dividends. Might they be on the verge of making another big move to really go all in and try to win around Steph? And what would it cost them? So this was Brian Windhorst of ESPN said, yes, there is a package that the Warriors could use to get Giannis. They have some future draft picks. They have interesting young players like last year. Brandon Podziemski was off limits. Well, first of all, let me just say this. If Brandon Podziemski is off limits in a Giannis Antetokounmpo trade, then somebody's got to lose their job. That would be absolutely insane. This is Giannis that we're talking about. And again, I can't imagine that would actually be the case, that a guy like Brandon Podziemski, who is just fine as a player, would hold up any Giannis trade. But I do wonder, are the Warriors regretting last summer when they wouldn't put Pods in a deal for Lauri Markkanen? Now, again, it all worked out. They were able to get Jimmy Butler, but they had potentially the option to get Lauri Markkanen last summer. They chose not to, did not want to put Brandon Podziemski in the deal. He said, who knows if that's what it's going to be the case this year, but they can't win a bidding war. I just want to say Giannis has not let it be known that he certainly wants out of Milwaukee, so I don't think we should assume that. If we do reach that point where Giannis was going to look around, he will have his agency in this. He has 2 years left on his contract. The Bucks don't have to listen to him, but if he were to come to Milwaukee and say, I want to play with Steph, there could be a deal worked out. So first of all, I do think we're going to head towards Giannis ultimately asking out from Milwaukee. I've talked about it on this channel before that I think Giannis essentially has to choose. Does he want to stay in Milwaukee for his entire career, which is an admirable goal, or does he want to win an NBA championship again? If he wants to win a championship, he cannot do it in Milwaukee. I think that is pretty clear based on the way this roster is structured, based on the roster or the assets that they've got. He's not going to do it in Milwaukee. And I think Giannis will pick winning a championship or contending for a championship over staying in Milwaukee. If he doesn't, hey, more power to him. But I think he's going to pick that route. Now, there's already rumors out there about Giannis and the Warriors. In fact, there was this floating around from All-Star Weekend that Giannis, who is known to be a dream target of the Warriors, made a late-night appearance at Steph Curry's party in San Francisco during All-Star Weekend. Warriors officials on hand took gleeful notice. He was reportedly the only non-Warriors player that was there. Right now, the Warriors are very, very committed to the Jimmy Butler, Steph Curry, Draymond Green group. Giannis and Steph are represented by the same agency. It was a Warriors-centric event with a one large exception being Giannis Antetokounmpo. Golden State is deeply invested in Jimmy Butler, but the reality about a player like Antetokounmpo is that his greatness can compel nearly every owner and GM in the league to adjust their plan. So let's say Giannis does go to the Bucks and says, I want to be traded and I want to be a Golden State Warrior. Now, remember, Giannis has multiple years left under contract. So in theory, the Bucks don't have to listen to Giannis. It's not like he's got free agency coming up the way Kevin Durant does. Kevin Durant can tell anybody who's interested in him that he does not want to play for that, hey, you can trade for me, but I will not sign with you next summer. I will walk away and you will get nothing. That is usually enough to scare teams off. Giannis, with multiple years under contract, a team could trade for him, even though he may not want to be there. Now, he will still have an opportunity to work with the Bucks, and the Bucks will want to do him a solid, I think, and try to send him someplace that he wants to go. So how could the Warriors get it done? Again, we're talking about trading away $50 million-ish in salary. You're looking at a lot in order to make the money work. Take a look at this in terms of the Golden State Warriors. Do they have cap space to spend? No, they don't. They're going to be an above the cap team. They do have some flexibility below the first apron, which they would trigger a hard cap at the first apron if they were to take back more money in a trade than they send out. Or if they were to aggregate salaries in a trade, that would trigger a hard cap at that second apron. So that's something to keep an eye on there for Golden State. The Milwaukee Bucks obviously have a lot of money under contract right now. That could become a challenge as well. But the Warriors are in a position where they could be the team to take back more money, particularly with Gary Payton II and Kevon Looney hitting free agency here and Jonathan Kuminga being a restricted free agent. So the easiest path would probably be doing a sign and trade with Jonathan Kuminga. Now, that said, that is somewhat dependent upon what the Bucks do this summer. You've got Bobby Portis, Pat Connaughton, Kevin Porter Jr. These guys are all player options. What happens with these player options? Do they pick them up? Do these guys opt for free agency? Pat Connaughton, I would imagine, is picking up his option. Can you clear some of that salary off the books? If that's the case, you're not in that big of trouble. $28 million below the first apron, so you could be in an okay situation. But again, it depends on what do you do with Brook Lopez? Are you keeping him? What happens with Portis? What happens with Connaughton? There's a lot of moving parts here with the Milwaukee Bucks. But bottom line, you could find something around a sign and trade, sending Jonathan Kuminga to the Milwaukee Bucks in a deal that would bring back Giannis Antetokounmpo. Now, is that enough for Giannis? No, of course not. So what else could the Golden State Warriors put in? Well, obviously, they do have some future draft capital that they can get into. We're talking first-round picks. You could also be looking at doing something around, let's say, Buddy Hield at just $9 million and then $3 million guaranteed after that. That's a pretty nice contract if the Bucks want future flexibility. You also have Moses Moody, who's a talented young player, Brandon Podziemski at $3 million. And remember, during the offseason, there's a lot more flexibility to take back more players than you send out in a trade than there are during the regular season when we're talking about the trade deadline. So there is actually some flexibility here for the Milwaukee Bucks to get, maybe you get the Warriors go all in and you get Moses Moody, Brandon Podziemski, Jonathan Kuminga, plus draft capital and whatever contracts are needed in order to make the money work. And then you're talking about a quartet of Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, Draymond, and Giannis Antetokounmpo. Also possible that the Warriors just say, you know what, Jimmy, we love you. Thanks for coming, but it's Giannis. And so we're going to flip you in a deal for Giannis Antetokounmpo. Or it could be Draymond in that situation. Draymond, thank you so much for the years and years and years. Thank you for the championships, but it's Giannis, and we have to make this kind of a move. Now, again, is this likely? No, I still think there are teams like the San Antonio Spurs, the Houston Rockets that can come in and offer more and better draft capital, more and better young talent than what the Golden State Warriors can offer. But if the Warriors truly say, hey, we're going all in, we're doing everything we can to get Giannis if we have a shot at him, and if Giannis goes to the Bucks and says, please send me to the Warriors, there actually are some interesting pieces when we're talking Kuminga, Moses Moody, Podziemski, draft capital, some matching salaries, and off you go. Again, both teams right now being below the first tier apron, it would be critical that they maintain that status, although it is certainly possible they could loop in a third team, a fourth team, and so on. Already the rumors are circulating that the Milwaukee Bucks will want to loop the New Orleans Pelicans and or the Portland Trail Blazers into any Giannis deal in order to bring back some of their own draft capital, since the Blazers and the Pelicans possess most of the future draft capital for the Milwaukee Bucks. So a lot going on here, a lot happening right now. The entire league is meeting at the Chicago pre-draft combine. So there's a lot of buzz happening right now, but clearly the Houston Rockets, they're in a position to make moves. The 76ers, that number 3 pick could be at play. I don't think it should be, but the 76ers could potentially move on from that. The San Antonio Spurs with the number 2 pick, they could certainly do something dramatic with that selection. The Dallas Mavericks, we know they're keeping number 1, but also the Golden State Warriors with their second round exit. They now have that little bit of extra motivation to go do something significant right now if they have the ability to do so. Again, Giannis already attending Golden State Warriors parties at All-Star Weekend. Could he ask out of Milwaukee and say specifically, please work with me and send me to the Warriors? Good Lord. And that scenario, the West just continues to get wilder. But everybody give me your thoughts in the comments down below. How likely do you think all of that is? And don't forget to subscribe right here to the channel. Till next time, see ya and stay safe.